Listen to me, because I know what it feels like to stare at your phone and pretend you're fine, while your chest is tight and your mind is sprinting. You replay every conversation like a detective, looking for the moment you ruined, the emotion you should have swallowed. You loved someone who could be warm and magnetic, and then suddenly distant, silent, unreadable. And you tried to be the easy one, the patient one, the understanding one. But patience without security becomes self-abandonment, and you can only abandon yourself for so long before your heart starts to ache in a way that feels like hunger. Here is the truth that changes everything. Walking away does not create love, it reveals it. It doesn't cast a spell. It doesn't flip a switch in someone's chest. It simply removes the noise that was hiding reality. Because when you keep leaning in, keep explaining, keep reaching out, you are not only showing affection, you are keeping the entire dynamic running on your nervous system. Your effort becomes the fuel. Your anxiety becomes the oxygen. And as long as you provide that oxygen, you can mistake motion for progress and mix signals for depth. If a connection collapses the moment you stop pushing it forward, then you were not in a relationship, you were in a pursuit. You were the one holding the emotional rope, tying knots, stopping it from snapping, while the other person treated closeness like something they could sip and then withdraw from whenever it felt uncomfortable. You were rewarded for chasing and punished for wanting clarity. You were called too much for asking for basics. And the most heartbreaking part is that you started believing that asking for consistency was a flaw, when it was simply your nervous system begging to feel safe. Walking away is not a trick, it is a boundary that exposes the structure of the bond. When you are always available, they can have comfort without responsibility. They can receive your warmth without learning how to hold it. They can come close when they feel lonely, and pull away when they feel exposed, and your forgiveness becomes the cushion that softens every consequence. But when you step back calmly, you remove the cushion. You remove the endless emotional customer service, where you keep explaining your worth to someone who benefits from pretending not to understand it. And in the quiet, the truth rises, because pressure changes people. When you are present and reaching, your presence can feel like pressure to someone who equates closeness with being trapped. They don't always feel your love, they feel the responsibility they imagine comes with it. But when you walk away, the pressure drops and what's underneath starts speaking. The feelings they kept buried, the attachment, the curiosity, the regret, the longing, those feelings don't usually show up when you're chasing them. They show up when the chasing stops and the silence forces them to sit with themselves. Your absence becomes a mirror, and mirrors are terrifying for people who avoid themselves. While you were there, they could blame the relationship. They could blame timing and stress, anything external. But when you're gone, the story changes. Now there is no argument to hide behind, no text to react to, no explanation to dismiss. There is only their life, their choices, and the echo of what they lost access to. That is why walking away reveals truth, because it reveals whether their connection to you is genuine, or whether it depended on you doing all the work. Walking away also reveals you. It reveals how much of your identity has been built around proving you are lovable. It reveals the part of you that thinks love must be earned through effort, through patience, through being understanding even when you are hurting. It reveals the bargains you have been making with yourself, saying, if I just do this differently, they will finally stay. But love is not a performance review. You don't get commitment by shrinking your needs or pretending you don't care. Real love meets you where you are, and it doesn't require you to disappear in order to be chosen. So calm becomes your power. Not coldness, not cruelty, calm. Calm means you don't slam doors, you stop holding them open with your own body. Calm means you don't threaten, you simply choose dignity. Calm means you don't disappear to punish, you step back to protect your peace. You stop responding instantly to someone who responds eventually. You stop accepting apologies that aren't followed by change. You stop confusing a moment of intensity with a pattern of consistency. And you let your actions say, I am not available for a love that only shows up when it's convenient. And yes, it can feel terrifying, because walking away risks the outcome you have been trying to avoid. It risks the possibility that they won't come back. But staying has been costing you something too. It has been costing you your self-respect, your confidence, your ability to trust yourself. If they care, your absence will wake them up, not because you manipulated them, but because you finally stopped cushioning their pattern. And if they don't wake up, then you still gain the most important thing, the permission to stop begging for what should be freely given, and to start building a life where love feels steady. You need to understand something that will protect your heart for the rest of your life. An avoidant is not always afraid of you. They are afraid of what they feel when they are close to you. And if you don't grasp that distinction, you will spend months, sometimes years, trying to fix the wrong problem. You will keep thinking, if I say it better, if I'm calmer, if I'm less emotional, if I don't ask for so much, If I'm just easier to love, then they will finally stay. But the brutal truth is this: the part of them that runs is not running from your words. It is running from the vulnerability your presence awakens. Because closeness does something to them that they rarely admit out loud. Closeness makes them feel seen. Closeness makes them feel accountable. Closeness makes them feel like their inner world might be touched. And if their inner world is a place full of fear, shame, unmet needs, and old pain, then love can feel like exposure. And when love feels like exposure, they don't lean in, they protect themselves. They go cold, they get distracted, they become busy, they become vague. They start acting like you're asking for something unreasonable when you're only asking for connection that is consistent. And here's what hurts the most. You can be the safest person in the room, and they will still feel threatened because their nervous system isn't responding to you. It's responding to their history. It's responding to what closeness meant to them in the past. Maybe closeness meant losing themselves. Maybe closeness meant criticism. Maybe closeness meant being controlled, being disappointed, being abandoned after they opened up. So now even when you are gentle, even when you are kind, even when you are patient, their body interprets intimacy like danger, and instead of saying, "I'm scared," they say, "I need space," as if space is a neutral request. But you know it's not neutral, because it always happens right when things start to deepen, right when they start to care, right when the relationship begins to ask for real presence. This is why they can feel obsessed with you from a distance and overwhelmed by you up close. From a distance, you are safe. From a distance, there is no expectation. From a distance, they can romanticize you, fantasize, miss you, idealize you, and still feel in control. But close up, real intimacy has weight. Close up, love requires consistency, communication, repair. Close up, they can't hide behind charm or chemistry, because now your heart is involved. And your heart needs a foundation, not just sparks. And when you don't understand this, you will take their avoidance personally. You will think your feelings are the problem. You will start trimming yourself down, becoming smaller, quieter, more careful. You will start walking on eggshells, not because you are dramatic, but because the relationship has trained you to fear the consequences of being honest. You start measuring your tone, your timing, your words, because you know one wrong move and they disappear. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin to live in a relationship where your peace depends on their mood. And that is not love. That is emotional instability disguised as romance. Let me say this clearly: you cannot love someone into safety if they are committed to emotional distance. You can be understanding, but you cannot do their healing for them. You can be supportive, but you cannot become the container for everything they refuse to feel. You can offer patience, but patience without progress is just you waiting in a room where the door never opens. And that's why this second truth matters. Their avoidance is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of their relationship with vulnerability. Now, this is where walking away becomes more than a boundary. It becomes an act of mercy for you and for them. Because when you step back, you stop forcing closeness on a nervous system that interprets closeness as danger. And ironically, when you stop forcing closeness, the panic can lessen and the feeling can rise. They can finally feel the attachment without the immediate pressure of managing it. They can miss you without feeling trapped. They can remember you without feeling watched. Your absence removes the immediate threat, and it leaves behind the one thing they can't outrun, the emotional consequence of their own pattern. But I need you to be careful, because an avoidant returning does not always mean they are ready. Sometimes they return because they are lonely, because their nervous system misses the comfort, because they want relief. And relief is not the same as love. Relief is not the same as growth. Relief is simply the moment they want the warmth again. So if they come back, don't let your heart race ahead of the reality. Don't hand them access to you just because they knock. The door to you should open for consistency, not for nostalgia. It should open for emotional ownership, not for a vague message at midnight. You deserve a love that doesn't punish you for needing reassurance. You deserve someone who can say, "I feel scared, but I'm here," instead of making you chase their silence. You deserve someone who understands that intimacy is not a threat, it's a choice. And if someone cannot stay present, then the most loving thing you can do for yourself is stop offering your heart as a place they visit when it suits them. Because you are not a pit stop. You are not a temporary comfort. You are not something to pick up and put down. So when you walk away, remember what you are walking away from. You are walking away from confusion. You are walking away from being half chosen. You are walking away from a relationship that asks you to be endlessly patient while your needs remain unanswered. And you are walking toward a life where you don't have to earn basic care. And if they truly care, they will not only return, they will rise. They will meet you with clarity, with effort, with consistency, with the courage to be emotionally present. And if they can't, then your walking away is not a loss, it's your salvation. I want you to take a breath before you read this, Because the fourth truth is the one that changes your life, not your relationship, and most people never reach it. Most people stop at the fantasy of the return. They stop at the hope that one day the avoidant will wake up, call them, apologize, and finally become the person they kept imagining. They build an entire future inside their head, based on a moment of intensity, a few beautiful memories, and the promise of potential. But the real power, the kind of power that restores your dignity and makes you unbreakable, is not in making them come back. It is in becoming someone who no longer needs them to come back. Because needing someone's return is a form of emotional dependence, and dependence makes you negotiable. It makes you accept crumbs while calling them a meal. It makes you tolerate silence while calling it space. It makes you explain your feelings to someone who already understands, but benefits from pretending they don't. And the hardest part is that you don't even notice how much you've compromised until you feel the emptiness of your own life. The parts of you that got smaller, the friends you stopped replying to, the joy you postponed, the confidence you traded for the hope of being chosen. So when we say, the real power is becoming someone who no longer needs the return, it doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you're cold. It means you are no longer willing to abandon yourself for love. It means you stop measuring your worth by whether someone chooses you. It means you stop allowing someone else's emotional capacity to decide how valuable you are. Because their inability to stay does not define your ability to be loved. Their fear of closeness does not mean you are too much. Their avoidance is not a verdict on you. It is a mirror of their own internal limitation. And the moment you understand that, you stop trying to win at a game you didn't agree to play. You stop trying to be the perfect version of yourself, the version who never needs reassurance, the version who never asks for clarity, the version who never gets hurt. You stop doing emotional gymnastics to keep someone comfortable. You stop being the relationship's nervous system. You stop being the one who holds the emotional roof up while the other person enjoys the shelter. And instead, you start becoming emotionally expensive. Not in a selfish way, but in a self-respecting way. Emotionally expensive means your love is not available to someone who treats it casually. It means your softness is not accessible to someone who handles it with carelessness. It means your presence is a privilege that requires consistency. It means you can be kind without being available. You can be loving without being open-ended. You can have compassion without sacrificing your standards. And when you reach that place, your entire energy changes. You stop chasing. You stop forcing. You stop rushing to fix. You stop trying to manage someone's emotions for them. And that shift is what changes the dynamic, because it removes the reward for avoidance. You see, people return to what is familiar. And for many avoidants, what becomes familiar is a relationship where they can pull away and still be welcomed with open arms, without accountability, without repair. They return because it's comfortable, not because it's healthy. So if you want to protect your heart, your goal cannot be to become the person who is easiest to come back to. Your goal must be to become the person who is hardest to lose, not because you're rare in looks, not because you're rare in charm, but because you are rare in self-respect, rare in emotional clarity, rare in boundaries, rare in the way you can love deeply and still walk away when love is not being met with love. And this is where your biggest temptation will appear the moment they reach out. A message, a call, a random check-in, a reaction to your story. That tiny breadcrumb that sets your nervous system on fire because it feels like proof that you mattered, proof that they miss you, proof that the return is coming. And if you're not careful, you will hand them your heart again, not because they earned it, but because you are relieved. Relieved that you're not forgotten. Relieved that you still have access. Relieved that the fantasy isn't dead, but relief is not love. Relief is not repair. Relief is simply your nervous system catching a breath after holding it for too long. So you need a new standard, a standard that isn't built on words, but on patterns. You don't open your heart for You don't rebuild your trust because they feel lonely. You don't sacrifice your peace because they miss the comfort of your presence. You require consistency. You require accountability. You require emotional ownership. You require someone to show you, not tell you, that they are capable of staying. Because if they return with the same pattern, just wrapped in sweeter language, then it's not a return, it's a repeat. And the most powerful part is this: when you become someone who no longer needs the return, even if they come back, you will not lose yourself again. You will not abandon your needs to keep them. You will not ignore red flags because you're afraid of being alone. You will not accept half love because you miss the feeling of being wanted. You will be able to look at them with clear eyes and say, I care about you, but I'm not available for inconsistency. And you will mean it, not as a threat, but as a truth. Because the goal was never to make them realize your value. The goal is for you to realize it first. To realize that your love is sacred. To realize that you are not here to convince someone to choose you. You are here to be chosen clearly, consistently, and proudly. And if someone cannot meet you there, then the greatest victory is not that they return. The greatest victory is that you don't return to what broke you. There is a moment that comes after you walk away. A moment that doesn't look dramatic from the outside, but inside the avoidant it can feel like a room suddenly going silent after years of noise. Because while you were there, while you were trying, while you were explaining, while you were bending yourself into a shape that could fit their comfort, your presence gave them something to push against. Your messages gave them something to react to. Your love gave them a warm background hum that they could take for granted. Even if they acted distant, even if they delayed, even if they avoided, a part of them still knew you were there. And when you were there, they could keep their story alive, the story that the relationship is complicated. The timing is off, you are asking too much, they are stressed, they need space. But when you leave, when you go quiet, when you stop feeding the dynamic, the story collapses, and all that's left is the mirror. And the mirror is brutal, because your absence doesn't just remove you, it removes their distractions. It removes the thing they used to blame. It removes the person they used to make responsible for the emotional weather of the relationship. When you're present, it's easy for them to turn their discomfort into a reason to pull away and then justify it. But when you're gone, the discomfort doesn't disappear, it intensifies, because now it has nowhere to go. The loneliness becomes loud. The emptiness becomes obvious. The nights become longer. And the worst part for them is that they can't point to you anymore and say, "This is why I'm overwhelmed," because you're not there. So they are left with the only question they hate facing. If it's not them, then is it me? This is why your absence becomes a mirror, because it forces a confrontation with self. It forces them to see their patterns. It forces them to notice how often they ran, how often they minimized, how often they took love and gave uncertainty back. They remember the moments you tried to be gentle and still got punished with distance. They remember how you waited for replies, how you tried to keep the peace, how you swallowed your needs because you didn't want to be too much. And suddenly what they called space starts looking like avoidance. What they called independence starts looking like fear. What they called not ready starts looking like a choice that had consequences. And let me tell you something that might make your heart ache. They often don't feel the full weight of what you meant to them until they lose the easiest access to you. Not because you weren't valuable, but because avoidant patterns numb perception. When someone is emotionally defended, they can be loved and still not fully receive it. They can be cared for and still not fully appreciate it. They can be chosen and still not fully understand what it means, because a part of them is always bracing for the moment it gets too real. So they keep it half real. They keep it manageable. They keep it at a distance where they feel safe, and your constant presence makes it easy to keep doing that. Your availability becomes a soft illusion that you will always be there, always forgiving, always open. But when you're gone, the illusion is gone. And now, the mirror shows them something terrifying, not just that you left, but that you could leave, that you are not guaranteed, that you are not a permanent source of comfort, that you are not a safe backup plan. And that is the moment their nervous system often wakes up, because they feel the loss of control. They feel the shift in power. They realize they can't just disappear and return without consequence. They realize the door they assumed would always be open has finally been closed, not with anger, but with self-respect. And listen, this is where you need to protect yourself emotionally, because the mirror effect can make them reach out, but reaching out is not the same as rebuilding. The mirror can create regret, but regret is not responsibility. The mirror can create longing, but longing does not equal emotional maturity. Sometimes they return because they want to stop the discomfort, not because they want to change the pattern. They want you back the way you were, soft, available, willing to accept half love because you were hungry for the full thing. They want the relief of your presence, but not the accountability that should come with it. So the question is not, will they feel your absence? They will. The question is, what will you do when they finally do? Because your absence was never meant to be a weapon. It was meant to be a wake-up call to you. A wake-up call that says, if my love must be withheld to be valued, then I have been giving it to the wrong person. A wake-up call that says, if I have to disappear to be respected, then my presence has been taken for granted. A wake-up call that says, I refuse to keep auditioning for love that should feel steady. And the most heart-touching part of this entire journey is that when you walk away, you start meeting yourself again. You start hearing your own thoughts without their mixed signals interrupting them. You start sleeping without the constant anticipation of the next shift. You start remembering what it felt like to be confident, to be calm, to be whole. And that's when the real transformation happens, not in them, in you. You realize you are not hard to love, you were simply loving someone who couldn't stay present. You realize your needs were not too much. They were simply inconvenient for someone who wanted connection without responsibility. So if they return, let it be to a version of you that is no longer begging. Let it be to a version of you that has standards, not ultimatums. Let it be to a version of you that can say calmly, "I'm not interested in chemistry without consistency." Let it be to a version of you that understands that love is not proven by how much pain you can tolerate. It is proven by how much truth you are willing to require. Because the mirror your absence created is not just for them, it is for you too. And if you look into it honestly, you will see a person who deserves a love that does not disappear,